People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
1, 3, you're gonna breathe it in as deep as you can. Okay. 1, 2. First husk.
Technically, this is my second husk.
Yeah. First few always go quickly. Training wheels. Does this one have a name?
Her name was Vel.
So, Belle, out of the trillions and trillions of habitable planets spread across this clearly antagonistic universe, why are you here?
Find him, observe him, uncover his research.
You're a scientist?
Same as you. What were you researching that was so upsetting they exiled you here?
What's the nature of his research?
I don't know.
Tell me what you see.
If you fail this mission, you will never come home.
Truth is the burden of the job.
Hey folks, welcome to a special episode of The Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. On this episode, I am talking with Aaron Silverstein all about his technically second feature film, The Infinite Husk. It had its premiere at South by Southwest back in 2025 and is now currently streaming on all major platforms. It is a science fiction film. I'm not going to go too much into the plot of it. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. But I had a really good time watching this, and I hope you have a great time watching it and listening to this interview. Before we start talking about Infinite Husk, I want to know a little bit more about you and how you got into filmmaking. What's your journey?
I'm a typical 80s kid. So running around with friends, literal, actual camcorder situation. First short film involved the kind where you have to press pause to edit it. So not super 80s like the real classic filmmakers. For an 80s kid, that's about as retro as it gets. Fell in love with it almost instantly. I remember thinking it was the only thing that I could see myself doing long term. So it really started that simply. Roping all my friends into terrible, silly little ideas and filming it. I got better and better, hopefully, every time until The Infinite Husk.
What were some of your early films like as far as the subjects?
They were just silly. Your little ninjas and superheroes. It's funny, one of our first real projects, it was technically like a feature film. I think it was, by definition, I think it was like 54 minutes, which we had no business doing. Started my junior year in high school. And there's literally a lightsaber fight. It was terrible. It was cheesy. We were wearing awful costumes from Halloween store down the street. We didn't even have a script. We made it up as we went and then stitched it all together. They all were silly, but once I got to college, they started getting more existential because that's what college kids do. Getting philosophical, and you read a couple of books and you think you know everything. Yeah, and they morphed from there. Looking back now, I can see how it all pieced together to be the sort of work I do now. The seeds were there all the way back then.
I know you've done a lot of short films, but what other filmmaking have you done? I think I read that you have done a lot of advertising.
That's mostly how I make a living. I've been involved in video. We should call it video. Filmmaking is a catch-all term, but at this point, technically most of my life, for longer than I've been alive than not. But yes, professionally, I've been lucky enough to shoot and make like commercials and ad things, usually for like brands. So they're not what most folks, not typically, I've done a couple of commercials, but not what folks usually consider commercials like on the TV. But I've been able to do some like higher scale ads for brands and things like that. When I say higher scale, I just mean you get the budget to have some actors and have locations, and it's invaluable. That was directly impacted being able to shoot the feature film, because you learn. You learn how to work with the crew, you learn how to set up a camera, tripods. I do a ton of post work, and did a lot of posts of the film along with a couple other folks, and the advertising stuff, the brand stuff, the corporate videos, that's all useful. I meet videographers now, and I want to get into filmmaking, but I just shoot talking head videos. And I'm like, that's part of it. Like, well, you can light the hell out of a talking head video. You can learn how to EQ and compress audio from a microphone, and someone's just talking about their software or their sales video. It's all very similar. It all works together. So I've been lucky enough to be involved in video now for 17-ish years, pretty consistently. It really is the bulk of the work I do.
What I'm sure that has also taught you how to solve problems, and I'm sure filmmaking is a lot about solving problems.
I'm pretty sure it's only what filmmaking is. It's just starting your own problems and then trying to solve them. I think that's what filmmaking is. Walk into bear traps and you have intentionally, and then you got to wiggle your way out. You see another one a few feet away, you intentionally step into it, so you wiggle out of that one. Yeah, shooting is, especially for work, is problem solving, and it's a tremendous help, and it's lots of wonderful experience.
Where did the idea for the Infinite Husk come from?
The film is the three different roads coming together, like the intersection of three different paths. So the first one is, like a lot of indie filmmakers, I assume at least a portion of your like listenership, for example, is you stockpile indie ideas. Cheap ideas is another way to put it. All of us do. Every filmmaker I've met, it's like you have these ideas where you're like, oh, I could do that for $30, $100, $1,000. You stockpile these ideas, and I have a bunch. I hope to explore some more soon. But one of them I had was this idea of resurrection. And if you're a filmmaker, immediately, if you haven't had this idea yourself, resurrection is easy to depict on camera, because you can shoot someone and cut, stop the recording, and then move locations and press play again. And if you have them in the same spot, it's, oh, they're back to life again. So it's a cheap idea. I had this, but I didn't have a story. The next first, that's one road. Another road was, like a lot of folks these days, because it's easy to access it through papers online and podcasts, is we all have a lot of information these days about quantum mechanics, science, astronomy, physics, talks about dimensions and corporeal beings. All these sorts of things are much more accessible than they were years ago. So you start stockpiling these like sciencey things. And the last little bit is a little bit of a sadder reason, but I actually had a really close relative pass away right before the film of cancer. But and I was with him throughout the duration of the end of his life. He was there cognitively, but his body was deteriorating. And that sort of became a topic of conversation for us. This idea of he's still here, but the husk, the body, is fading away. And is he his body? Is he his mind? He was still sharp and still himself until the very end. And that's a beautiful and sad thing. And once I had all three of those things, they all come together in this magical moment. The next thing I know, I had the script. I had the idea, at least. I went to writing right away. It all came together in the car. I was driving back from visiting, and I had it. And I broke all the speeding laws as I rushed back to write this idea down.
And when was that?
This was in July 2023.
By independent film standards, that was pretty quick.
Yes, I've never written anything as quickly as The Infinite Husk, and I never will. Intentionally, I never will. But it took me almost exactly 30 days to write the script. And it's coming from a divine place, if you believe in that stuff. We are just running with that sort of inspiration, fueled by emotions, personal experience, luck. but also in the future. Again, I don't think I will ever trust an idea that comes in 30 days. I'll definitely be like, we should probably do another edit of this. But I was riding a different cosmic wave, I was in a different psychological place, contemplating mortality, all these sorts of things. So I was not about to slow up once the inspiration arrived.
And then how does the project actually come together? Again, always problems, always adventures, always challenges.
Sure. I'm proud of the film being self-funded, especially with as successful as it's been, which is, again, just props to the entire cast and crew. But being in that position means that you can start, you can greenlight your own project. And so it really started with the core crew. And so that's producers Christine Sohail, producer Mitchell McKenzie. The three of us decided we had the resources and we had the skill set to get this started with 3-ish folks. But prior to that, I actually spent a month. So I finished writing the script again in August. August 2023. I took about 1 month exactly on my own to begin doing the pre-production. Again, shooting videos and things all the time. I knew what sort of things I had to begin putting in place. I began thinking about locations, checking their availability, doing what a line producer does, thinking of a loose schedule, building a budget. I'm used to shooting things on my own, so thinking about cameras I want to use, just beginning to build what it actually would look like to make the film. Once I had, again, a pretty convincing package for myself, at least, then again, I spoke to Christine Sohail, Mitchell McKenzie, and decided, hey, we're going to make this film. Then quickly involved another childhood friend, John Perjochi, who was a UPO on the project. And then we went right into casting, essentially. It's a very, very small film, so that's all I needed. But that's really is how it goes. Is like, had an idea, kicked the tires on it a little bit, and was like, all right, I'm doing it, especially since I had the money.
How do you know Christine and Mitchell?
I've worked with both of them for years on various projects, and really that's it. It's just two very high-powered, very intelligent, very skilled professionals that really know what indie filmmaking is. Again, those folks, those of your listeners who know what I mean, they know what I mean. Everyone, it's like buzzwords now. Everyone wants to make low-budget films. The industry has like slashed budgets over and over and over and over again. Indie filmmaking is a different thing. It doesn't just mean making a lot with a little. That's what everyone thinks of it as. It's also creative solutions, even when you have the budget to do something. Sometime, this indie filmmaking is its own brand now. It's its own flavor, it's its own style. And so the two of them are very skilled at making that a reality in every frame. I'm very lucky to have worked with them and everyone else.
I was very interested because your name shows up for casting. How did you put the cast together?
I'm Los Angeles, born and raised from Los Angeles, and every place has its charm and benefits and gifts to the world, and Los Angeles is Tinseltown, man. Everyone here is 1 degree removed at most from filmmaking, so it is not hard if you're diligent and hopefully a decent person to find a talented cast. So I'm a genuine, firm believer of the casting call. All of my projects, ones again that I've been lucky enough to have folks say are pretty good, pretty decent. The Infinite Husk is the casting calls. So I posted a casting call, and that's how I found the lead, Pisa Kieduba. She was one of a handful of folks who sent in a self-tape, and called her in for an in-person audition. And the role was hers to lose. I saw her cast her self-tape, and I knew that was Vel from the film. I just had to meet her and hope that she was a decent person and showered regularly and was and so that's how I met almost everyone. The only one that I wasn't that way, and it's one of my favorite stories, is Serkis Soluski. He's the main Morrow opposite of Peace. And I've worked with him. He's the only actor I've worked with before, I think, period. The only actor I've worked with on multiple projects. I worked with him on a proof of concept I wrote in 2019. And he was so staggeringly talented that I dreamed of working with him again. He hates when I say this, but I did a really poor job of working with him in 2019. This is a compliment to him, but he's like a Ferrari, and I didn't know how to drive a Ferrari. Not that it's a good analogy, but he's just way more skilled than I was at communicating and understanding the essence of a scene and things like that. And I had written the damn thing, but he was patient with me and all of this stuff, and it always haunted me. So I posted a casting call for his role in the film. And the funny thing is, and I'm very thankful to the Cosmos for this, is, I don't know, a couple of days up, I get a self-tape from Circus. I press play. I'm getting all these other self-tapes, really great actors. And it's Circus like looking into the camera. And he literally, the first thing he says is, "You couldn't call me?" Then he does the reading. I literally immediately log into the backstage, pull the casting call, and I call him and I offer him the role. And he played hard to get for a couple of days, but ultimately he said yes. And it was, aside from casting piece as well, the smartest decision I ever made was offering him that part. He's easily one of the two highlights of the film, is his performance, his ability to hear the music and the language. And between that and the staggering performance from Peace, man, I got really lucky. It's funny, if one can be proud of it, I'm really proud of the casting, but that's really just like, a funny way of saying they're all very talented. It's just giving them the room to perform. Every single member of the cast and crew, William Thomas Jones plays the Thin Man. He has this like Shakespearean King Lear quality to him, and Jill Kenashiro's the actress at the very end is just phenomenal. And I feel very lucky that for a film our size, you usually don't have performers of this quality, of this heft and gravitas. And if you cast right, if you write something okay, you get the pleasure of sitting back and letting the professionals do their thing. And so I can't take credit for their performances. They're just amazing.
Did help direct them, I imagine.
On my best days.
How was the shoot and how long was it?
The executive producer on the film and my manager, Christopher Siccardi, doesn't like when I say this, but it's the truth. The shoot was really hard, simply because of resources and scale, a lack of resources. But it's like parents and children. You hope that the children don't know that maybe funds are tight. They're just like, Christmas was wonderful. And you don't know the parents are sweating and that they put all the gifts on credit. And it's just like a terrifying thing. So I think, and I've heard, because we've talked since the film, most of the cast and crew didn't know how stressful it really was, because I really do take pride in making the sets as comfortable. I don't do any of and he's obviously a legend, but I don't do the Kubrick thing where I'm going to be antagonistic on set. Everyone's a professional. So the sets, I think, were calm, but they didn't know that behind the scenes it was just on fire. And really it was because funds sometimes are running out by the second. Being your own producer and a director, you sort of like, I want to do 10 more takes, but also we need to wrap this up because I only rented the location for an hour. Cops pulled up and they were like, "Do you have your permits?" And I was like fumbling in my pockets looking for permits. We shot the intro of the film. The list goes on and on. Incredible shout out, thanks, gratitude to Mitchell McKenzie, who's the DP of the film. He's also not a small man. He's very tall, very sturdy. And so we often had him in these like tiny little corners and boxes with his tripod and camera, trying to get the perfect angle and staying in that position for hours. John Pedrocci's UPM, same thing. It's just lugging things that we shot until 4 a.m, 5 a.m, because almost the whole film's at night. Literally the entire film, but I think like one scene or two. Production was tough, and we all worked during the entire production as well. So would shoot until 4 or 5 in the morning and then go to work, and then 2-3 hours later get off work and then go back to set. But the original production was 15 days long over the course of 3 weeks. And then a few months later, we did 4 days of pickups, and that's the film.
I see Mitchell did special effects. You and he are doing editing. You're doing music. It's just, it continues to be this little power trio just powering through the rest of this too.
Oh, yeah. And this is where English is a flawed language because I can't find enough words to thank and show gratitude and appreciation to shout out Mitchell enough. He and I have overlapping skill sets, which make us, I think, a special, dangerous duo. We both are in like the creative fields, but he really took the VFX by the horns, and we did post work for almost exactly 1 year straight of editing, and I did a quick assembly of the film in about 3 months. And then right about the 3-month mark, I started working on the score. While I worked on the score, Mitchell just dove into the VFX. So all the scenes with the sphere, don't want to spoil anything at the end, but there's lots of VFX at the end. And he just took that by the horns and wrangled it. And there's also lots of invisible VFX in the film, just like little shots that are extended, walls that are painted in. Everyone who does film knows these sorts of things, but it helps to make the film feel as claustrophobic as it does. It's just like you're stuck in this little world. Once we had the score, I queued up a lot of the, I say tee up, but a lot of the sound design, but I'm not nearly skilled enough to have done it to the level where it's at. Plus, I don't know anything about surround sound mixing. So then executive producer connected me with Darren Hines, who did a phenomenal job on the sound design, added so much depth and life to it. One of my favorite stories as well is the premiere at South by, and one of the first people that comes up to me and it's just like, this film sounds so much better than it should. I was like, thank you. And I think they meant for the size and scale. It sounds like a real ass movie because it is a real ass movie.
I don't want to get too nerdy, but what did you actually cut on?
Man, talk about pain. We started in Premiere Pro. I think it was just comfort. Mitchell and I work in Adobe every day, the Adobe suite every day. Pretty much every single platform they have, we're doing animation stuff, sound stuff, the list goes on and on, character stuff, of course, Photoshop, Illustrator, blah, 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 blah. So we hopped into Premiere. I don't want to disparage anyone, but after we submitted to South by, so we're talking September 2024, we made the slow, painful migration to DaVinci. And once we moved to DaVinci, the whole film was finished in DaVinci. That meant a pretty massive continuation of the edit, trimming down, changing things, reshoots, things like that. And that's also where the film was graded as well. A huge shout out to Mitchell as well for that work. And then, the film was finished in DaVinci, but most of the VFX were done in After Effects and other platforms and brought into DaVinci as flattened files and things like that. It was agony. It just got to the point where our Premiere file was basically unresponsive. I will say it was maybe user error, so that way Adobe doesn't come after me. Although I use it, I'm pretty experienced, so I don't know. But we moved to DaVinci and it was an infinitely smoother process. But the move over was just very painful. The files were in a lot of places were a small film and hard drives, enough ports, fast enough hard drives to cut the footage, you name it, you know it.
At least you didn't have to worry about codecs, hopefully, too much. That used to be the big struggle, especially if you were putting together a project after many years, too. So
you're right. We are very lucky because, again, I'm old enough to started on DV tapes. And I agree. Codecs is a thing that younger filmmakers don't know the pain of. We didn't have to deal with codecs. Thank God everything's in the same frame rate. So I didn't have to do any frame rate conversions. So we didn't have any drop frames and the green screens of death flashing all over the place. None of that stuff. But it was still a nightmare. It really was a nightmare.
What'd you do your composing in?
I composed the entire score in Logic Pro X with a handful of analog instruments and about 2 or 3 dozen synthesizers. So a lot of the texture is analog instruments and saxophone. There's a couple songs with guitar in it, bass. 2 songs have drums, all real analog. And then I learned to tremolo decently well on a violin to get some of the violin tones in the film. I'm a terrible violinist, but I can tremolo my ass off. So that's the tangible textural feel of the film, because I wanted the film to it's common for films like this to have like an all synth score, but this film's a little bit grittier than the average sci-fi film or the shots of LA. So I needed to make sure that there was analog beds, which ache and creak and yawn with the film, and the time is not always on the grid and stuff intentionally. And synthesizers added a lot of the texture on top and things like that. I'm very proud of the score, if I can say so myself.
Aaron, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it's like in indie filmmaking, you have to wear so many hats, but you wore a lot of hats. It sounds like you and Mitchell were just like, okay, let me swap it up. All right, now I'm going to edit. Now I'm going to compose. It's nuts.
Thank you. You don't want to be self-congratulatory too much, but it was. And when everyone finds out that for 90% of the shoot, we had 4 crew members, and for 2 nights we had 5, and that post was done essentially by 3 people, Mitchell, myself, and Darren Hines with the sound mix. They're just like, how? I'm very proud of, this doesn't spoil anything, but at the end there's lots of like really striking visuals. That's all analog. That's all chemical reactions and things. And before we shot a single thing, I knew that's what I wanted in the film because I wanted to stand the test of time. The effects age quickly. And I did a bunch of research, did the deep dive into 2001 and how Kubrick did all of that. Bought a book that was not very helpful, but it was really cool to read about chemical reactions, and I thought it would be the thing. And we set up a petri dish, macro lens adapter in Mitchell's bedroom essentially, and shot for hours and hours these like slow motion chemical reactions. And it was like he and I together just like building this whole experience. And I'm proud of that because it was like filmmaking. Not that any other kind isn't, but it was very tangible, very real. It's my favorite part of filmmaking is that it's not always on a computer. It was like in life doing things, trying to manipulate and creating images. This is a long way to respond to you saying we wore a lot of hats, is that, yeah, we did all the things. Like Mitchell busted his ass on the production design. He was driving around Los Angeles buying little tchotchkes and little things. And Morrow has this like vintage triangular ashtray that is a close-up shot of, and it's a little bit of personality. It's a little thing. He could have had any ashtray, but that adds to the character of the film. Again, it makes it this like hermetic experience, and everything is fussed over. Everything in the film is just absolutely fussed over.
Ultimately, did you make the film you wanted to make?
Definitively. I have to be careful how I say this because I think it can be taken a certain way, but one of the lessons of filmmaking, I think for most directors, writer-directors, I don't think it's a lesson other folks are forced to live through. I think it's specifically writer-director is early on, though, that you have to like let go and let things unfold a certain way for the bigger picture, no pun intended. Because when you write it, you assume an actor is going to make a really specific expression, really specific choice, use a specific inflection. When we're running and gunning and shooting really quickly, you think, okay, we're going to, especially me, because I'm ordering, I know a lot of stuff. I'll be like, okay, this is how we're going to frame it. We're going to do this. And it doesn't happen that way. My knee-jerk reaction is to step in and be like, no, not that. And it just kills the mood. It kills the energy. It deflates everyone on set who is trying to put a little bit of themselves into the project. And I am proud of myself for learning to shut up really early. My job was to make sure we were all headed in the right direction. And then by the end, we got the film that we got. But day one, I think it's the only day that there's nearly no footage used is from the first day, because the first day I was in shock by how many things went differently. I had a small panic attack at 3:45 in the morning in my car on my own because I was like, oh my God, we're not going to get it. And that night decided, be the bumpers on the lane, but let the bowling ball roll down the alley. Just make sure we don't gutter ball. And so when I did that, there are things in the film that people love or have complimented and I can't take credit for, because I'm like, that is because I trusted the mastery of Circus, the genius of Mitchell, the just otherworldly talent and understanding of peace. And the list goes on and on and on. Letting Forrest swivel in their chair the way that they wanted to, and that look, I pictured it differently. Forrest did a way better job, though. That's exactly what it should have been. And especially doing post with Mitchell, who was very opinionated and powerful creative. You learn to let things go a certain way as long as we get close to the thing that is going to make the film come together.
Did you have a group that you would show the work in progress to, like a test screening?
I want to give a lot of credit to Christopher Scotti, again, my manager, but executive producer on the film. He's one of the few folks who's got the courage and the stomach for dealing with me, because I think I try to hide my stubbornness behind being relatively even-keeled. So everyone's like, oh, Aaron, I get it a lot. Everyone's like, oh, you're really just... And I'm like, but you don't realize that I will not budge on things. But Chris was very adamant about showing the people the film, commenting on, giving good notes on just structuring the film a certain way. And I think he and other folks still wanted it to be a little shorter than it is. So ultimately, I still was like, nope. Like every filmmaker, you're like, nope, that's the whole movie. But everyone saw the film, though, as in Christine, Mitchell was working on it. We got that kind of feedback. And but I really want to give props to Chris, who early on was really giving the film time, sitting with scenes, and sending that sort of feedback back to me. And that helped me sculpt, really fine tune certain things. And usually it was to the tune of shorter, just things don't have to fit as long. I think it's like the indie film curse is you want these long, slow, and often people don't realize this because you're trying to fill time, you don't have budget. But yeah, I all feedback, I really want to funnel through the gratitude I have to him for having, again, the courage and the stomach to deal with me.
You mentioned South by. Was that your premiere?
It was. South by 2025, we premiered the film in Austin, which is, you have to dream big to do something like this, right? And so I'm not being one of those folks that's like, oh, I knew we'd get in. I'm just saying the unreasonable belief in the project is how we got it done. You have to think ridiculous things, right? So we're going to win an Oscar. If you actually asked me, did I think we would win one? I'd say no, but I have to brainwash myself in order to shoot until 4 a.m, sleep for a couple of hours, and then go to work the next day. Otherwise, I'd be like, why are we doing this? And getting into South by, infinite thanks to Claudette and the team for believing in this film, giving us their stamp, letting us premiere in front of a wonderful crowd of accepting, interested, patient, open-minded people. It was such a beautiful crowd, and introduced the film and me, the cast and the crew, to the world in a lot of ways. I'll be honest, I didn't even know South by was as big and influential as it is. I was like, oh, cool, we got into South by. Shoulder shrug, that's cool. And that's really not me pretend. I just didn't know. I'm naive. I live in these little bubbles of try to make pretty pictures, and things definitely changed after that for a little bit. Yeah, after that, we actually played at Sitges in Spain. I had a chance to go to Spain, which I'd never been. So again, I'm like a little kid from LA. That was a huge experience. And same thing, to get introduced to that kind of crowd, at least at Sitges. I don't know if all in Spain, but the crowd, they interact with the film differently than American audiences, right? They groan when someone says something that they don't like, or it's a villain. They cheer when a character dies and they wanted them to die. And it was like an interactive experience, and you're there with folks watching your film, and it's got Spanish subtitles, and I don't know how we made it over an ocean, but we did. It was a beautiful experience. After Sitges, right before Sitges, we were lucky. We were acquired. The film was acquired by Chroma. They've been great partners with the film. And then from there, we actually had a small but mighty theatrical run. And I still think I'm in the phase where it hasn't really hit me that these things happened, right? Because again, we were just kids running around shooting with DV tapes and dressing up, and then to have the film play at AMC's across the US, to have it play at Regal in Oregon, to have it sell out a Lemley Theater, you're just like, I still think I'm the one who's just, this is crazy. And other folks are just like, what the hell? You guys used to just dress up with $15 Halloween costumes and run around town, and now you're 120 feet on screen. It's been humbling more than anything, though. You and I could talk for hours about this for another time, but you're also quickly introduced to the business of filmmaking. And that's a very different thing. And that's a whole other workshop.
But at least with the film, you stayed true to yourself.
I did. I think I did right by the cast and crew. It mattered to me more than anything. They believed in the project. They believed in the writing. They believed in not just me, but the rest of the crew, rather. Mitchell, John, Christine. They were willing to commit their time and energy. And so I made the film I wanted, but also I think respected the performances and did right by working my ass off to get it out there in a way that like honors, they got a chance to see themselves, right? In theaters, they get a chance now to stream their work on Amazon Prime and Apple TV. Not just name dropping, we really are small indie filmmaking kids through and through and through. And to have it turn into this, which is, it's really meager, to be honest, but it's still like more than we ever really, really thought possible, aside from the Oscar dreams. It is spectacular. It means everything.
Not everybody's, well, for you, second feature film is streaming on all of these platforms.
You're right. Technically, my second. Yeah, you're right. The one we shot when we were 16 years old is, in a lot of ways, the first one. Yeah, I should tell Mitchell that because we shot it when we were like 16 years old.
So what's next for you?
I have a couple of scripts now making the rounds. I really hope to get another feature off the ground. And the other one is a series, actually. Both of those are doing the industry dance now that I'm hopefully past the point where I will be personally funding these things, but never past the point where you have to work your ass off and push them to the finish line, I think. And the other thing is I am literally crossing the final T's and dotting the final I's on my first novel. I'm very proud of it. Is now that the Infinite Husk is out in the world, I can say this is like my current new masterwork. The goal is eventually to adapt it, but right now it's a book through and through. Like it's true devotion to the form of writing a book. It's not really a stopgap for a film. It's a book, and I'm looking for an opportunity to publish it.
Is there a good place for people to keep up with you and your work?
Folks can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Shade Ultra Inc. And I'm a little bit allergic to social media. I think most folks who make things, like really make things, are, and it's no shade or ill will towards other folks. It's just there's not time to do both, but that's where you can usually follow the things I'm up to. I'll try to update it every few months with something or other. But really, that's it. And again, I hope in the future to put more things out in the world and see if it's to folks liking it. If not, I apologize, but I'll make another thing, and maybe the next thing you'll like, or maybe the next thing you'll like.
You sound like Ed Wood from Ed Wood.
Yeah, you hate it? You hate my gut? Try again tomorrow. Yeah, thank you, Ed Wood. Ed Wood about Ed Wood. There we go.
Aaron, thank you so much. This was so nice talking with you.
Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to engage with the film and ask these questions. I really, really, really appreciate it. I think that's what any filmmaker, any artist wants is you can hate it and that's okay, but did you give it a chance? And it seems like you gave it a chance, and I think you did, Mike, so thank you.